Yo, CardinalCast. This is a special episode. I'm here with my dad. Not really. My adopted father, Chase Dimond. A mentor to me, especially in my early years, and now someone that is, I guess, can I call you a friend? Are we friends?
Yeah, dude, I definitely call you a friend.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Just making sure. Because I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, that's my friend, Chase Dimond. Chase is like, I don't know this guy. Um,
No, friend and about to be partner on Copy MBA. So this is exciting.
Hell yeah, man. We're gonna talk about that later for sure. Um, Yeah, dude. You're I think everyone listening definitely knows who you are. They definitely know that you're kind of a legend in the email marketing space. Um, that you have a huge presence all online. You have a massive agency. There's a lot of stuff that people don't know about you. Um, I guess like I kind of know maybe the answers to these, but what's something that like people would be surprised to know about you that if you told them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the things I've talked about more recently, and I've never been ashamed to talk about, is that I have Crohn's disease, and how I actually got into marketing was from Crohn's disease. So Crohn's is basically inflammation of a digestive tract. I got it at 13 years old, spent an entire year being sick, and then at 14 to 16, I basically dedicated my life to raising fundraising and awareness for this disease. And that's actually how I learned marketing. So I learned marketing when I was like 14, 16 years old, pretty much just like growth hacking, community marketing, and just raising a bunch of money. So I think that's probably one.
Doing emails with subject line quick question. Quick
It's a quick
question.
question.
Quick
Yeah.
question. Do you want to donate money to Crohn's disease today?
Yeah. Insert a photo, right, of me and no,
Hey,
none of
hey,
that.
first
But
line.
we were uh we were doing ads like in papers. We were doing like restaurant fundraisers. We were like emailing, and this was back in the day. If people remember, like AIM, like the messaging with friends, we were doing that, calling friends and families' houses, hitting up businesses. So it was a lot of like, yeah, guerrilla kind of grassroots marketing efforts. The only paid component was like running ads, but oftentimes like people would even give that to us for free, like in local papers. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. Dude, I wish Facebook would do that if you just had a really good cause. You're just like, hey, Facebook, like, can you let us ad for free? Like that, yeah. Yeah, man. Do you think that any of those like traditional marketing techniques like still work? Like if you were to run like ads in the paper today or like cold call your neighbors, would that actually work?
It's kind of funny you mention that. I don't know about ads in papers. I mean, I guess potentially, right? Like if you had the budget and you were in the right distribution, potentially. Uh, in our neighborhood, we have like this group chat for like all the ladies in the community. And anytime someone goes like knocking door to door, whether it's like someone selling solar or like, I don't know what else they're selling, roofing, tree services, there's like a text in the group that goes out saying like, lock your doors, ladies, don't respond. So I don't know about in my neighborhood in particular if like door to door sales would work. Cold calling, yeah, man, I think it's a hit or a miss. Like most of the time, like I see these random coming through. My phone's already identified it as likely spam, and I think that just triggers your brain to be like, I don't really want what you got going on. But I think there are channels that could and do work, right? For
Mm.
example, like we kind of connected through Twitter and then a cold email, right? So I think there are channels like cold emails and DMs and things like that that one done thoughtfully and correct can definitely work.
Yeah, bro. I think we connected through a cold Slack message. I think I told this story on another podcast, like with Aloe, but because he asked me like how we like got connected, and I filtered through your Twitter. You sent me to Michaela, like the lead copywriter at the time, and then I was like working for you, and then a few months later, I was like, "Yo, Chase," I messaged you in Slack. I was like, "Yo, Chase, do you remember me?" And you're like, totally, yeah." And you're like rifling through all your messages, like, "Who is this kid?" And yeah, but real quick, to go back to the mom group chat thing, dude, I was the victim of one of those one time because like I in like 2019 I started dating this girl who like she lived in like a nice neighborhood and like they had one of those mom group chats or it was like a Facebook group or something like that. And someone like took a picture of my car and was like, this guy keeps like showing up in the neighborhood, like nobody knows who he is, like just be on the lookout. And like her mom like showed that to me and they were like, "Is this your car?" And I was like, "Yeah, like can you clarify that I'm not trying to rob anyone, please?" Because it wasn't a nice car, bro. Like back in the day, I was driving a absolute shitbox, but
Yeah.
um
One quick thing actually, like to the point, and I think kind of what you're getting at is like I think if you approach it the right way and you were someone that like had an in or were friendly with one of the neighbors and actually could turn like the group text into a positive, like, hey, Mason or Chase just came to my door. They're selling X, Y, and Z. They're a family friend. They're friendly. I think if you could get in, we have like 40 or 50 moms in houses like in this group text. So that's a lot of potential business, right?
Mhm.
There's this, I don't know if it's like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or someone's doing this thing where every holiday they bring like American flags to the houses that have signed up on subscription, and they've got like almost every single house, and now they've got like this great subscription business as this kid. I don't know how much they get to keep versus the organization, but I think like if you're the right type of person, the right age, and you can use like those group texts and those things to the advantage, and you get a few people on it, then it gets so much easier, right? Just like in the online world, testimonials and social proof. If you could do that in the instance that we're talking about on group text, maybe that would work.
Dude, yeah. How can we get all of the group chat moms to buy Copy MBA?
Tell them that it's probably worth more than their kids going to an actual education, getting like a literature or a writing or a marketing degree.
100%, dude. Do you like, are there any like younger kids, um, like old enough where like they understand kind of what you do that you like mentor or talk to at all? Like any like 14 to 18-year olds that are like building something that like look up to you?
I'm still trying to figure out how to convince my wife and my mom and my family that I actually have a job and that I'm doing stuff that's cool, not just like this crazy thing. But in terms of younger kids, so outside, I guess you kind of mentioned that we're mentor. Obviously, you're older than that, but I've done kind of for my brothers like a lot of like kind of mentoring and kind of help and whatnot. And then through the charity that I was a part of for 6 years that I was on the board at, we kind of created this subgroup called NGL. It stands for Next Generation of Leaders, and essentially, it was a group of people that were like, I don't know, 14 to 21 that were in the community that had Crohn's or colitis that didn't really have a voice in the community because it's kind of what their doctors wanted and what their parents wanted. So for like 6 years, I was doing that like on a weekly, if not monthly basis, where I was doing a lot of mentoring more around like quality of life and disease and health, less than business. And over the years, I think there are people that I've just kind of worked with and done things with that I've never really looked at myself as a mentor for, but yeah, I guess to some degree, yeah.
Dude, that's so funny. Like the thing you said at the beginning makes you so much more relatable. Where it's like, dude, that's something everyone goes through. Where it's like you start doing kind of like something that we do, like you're building an online business, and like nobody understands it. They're like, dude, like just go back to school because you graduated college, right? You're USC or something like that.
I went to Chapman, so it's kind of like the USC of Orange County. Got like a business degree and whatnot. But to that point, so like my father-in-law tells people I do SEO. I was working on an incubator at one point. My mom was telling people I was working like on an incubator, and they took that as like I was working in a hospital with babies, right? Like the incubation period when someone's born, and like my wife was telling people I did X, Y, and Z, right? And part of early on, I was doing all these things, and that kind of I think was what confused people. And then I intentionally made the decision in my agency, my business, to laser focus on one thing, which was email marketing. And then when I started telling people, hey, I do email marketing, it started at least them saying I did email marketing. They still don't know necessarily what that means. So I kind of joke with them, hey, those spam emails that you get in your inbox that you don't want to go away? Like, that's me. And because I kind of make it funny and relatable, it sticks with them. Like, oh, Chase sends email. They also think I'm a spammer now that I say that, but yeah.
Dude, I do the same thing. When I explain it to people, it's like when you go into like a clothing store, you're buying stuff, and they're like, "Can we get your email? You can get 10% off your next order." Like they ask you in person, and they just like harass you. I always tell people like that's what I do, except I'm just not the person asking.
That's
We have
awesome.
we have a robot asking. Yeah, dude, and I think the reason why people do that is because like back in the day, like up until probably like 10 years ago, like most people would kind of stick with the same job or same career for like their entire lives. So like they start doing something when they're 25 and they retire from the same thing when they're 65. But like you and me and a lot of the people that we kind of hang around like are always doing something different. Like we start one thing and 3 years later we're done. We either hand it off to someone else where it's not our main focus anymore, and then we start on another thing.
Yeah, I think with that, most people in the past, like our parents and our grandparents and whatnot, they worked at like big, well-known companies, right? So you could say I did marketing at, Tesla, or I did marketing at Ford, or I did marketing at whatever it might be. And everyone's like, okay, I understand marketing at a high level to a degree. and I know this company. So it's almost funny. Like I feel like growing up, like having these jobs at these big companies, well, again, not knocking it. That's not for me. People thought that like you had this great grandiose thing where in reality, I think it's really cool when people are doing a 9 to 5 and also have side hustles, right? And are just interested by different things, or people venture off into the land of entrepreneurship, which is really exciting and scary, but exhilarating. So I don't think there's a right or wrong path, but you're right. I think the path that people are changing today is so different and it's so untraditional that people get confused because it's new. And I don't even know what I do sometimes, right? Like I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, like when people like ask you what you do, like do you say I'm a Twitter influencer or do you say I'm an email marketer? What do you say?
I think I most identify with I do email marketing. And then when they ask further questions like, well, what do you do? It's like, well, I've got an agency, got courses, got newsletters, I've got events, I've got software, right? So then the people that are interested and kind of understand like what email marketing means want to know like the level and the kind of the layer deeper. But yeah, for most people, I just say, hey, I do email marketing and keep it pretty simple.
Yeah, I tell people I'm a shoe salesman. That was my thing for because it just doesn't make sense for me to like go into the whole thing unless we're like sitting down at like dinner. Like people in passing will just be like, "What do you do?" I'll be like, "I'm a shoe salesman."
Yeah, I think you said this was audio only, but for anyone listening, Mason looks like he owns a yacht right now. So I
Yeah,
would
I
believe you
like
if you
my
told me
gold
that.
polo.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Yeah, I should have worn the built hat. Actually, that was one of our first bonding moments. Everyone always asks like about the hat. Like you and like every time I get on a call, especially with like a D2C guy, it's always like, "Oh, like built." I'm like, I mean, yeah, the only reason I bought this hat was because my former boss, Chase Simon, used to wear it on our like all hands every Monday. And I just bought one just to just so he could like look at someone else wearing the same hat and just bug him.
Yeah, I definitely like the dad hats.
Dude, let's talk about the agency a little bit because like I tell everyone like how dope it was working there and like how good of a job you guys do. Um, you have you started kind of with like no resources back in the day. Like now, like there's so many course. Like you have an agency course. There's like agency YouTube videos and stuff like that. It's kind of like a common business model, so it's fairly easy for someone to scale it fast. But like in 2018 when you started, like there was kind of nothing. Like how has it been like going from like absolute zero to like where you are now, which is like 8 figures?
Yeah, and actually, I guess something else that people probably don't know. I started my first agency in 2015 or 2016. So the current agency that we're at now structured is agency actually four technically. So agency one, I was fresh out of college. I was working at a good job in education technology, basically building products for people in college and had some pretty serious scale. I was making like I think $80,000 or something at that job fresh out of college, and I was like, man, I'm so close to like this 6 figure mark. Like how do I make money? Like, what can I do to make $20,000 in a couple months? So a couple of buddies that also had jobs were like, let's do this marketing agency thing. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, sounds easy enough. And we went weeks and probably even months without getting like a single client. Like, no one wanted to hire. So we were fresh out of college. The only experience we had while we were killing it at our respective jobs, it was, a job. So there was this opportunity that came up. There was this dating site back in the day called Bernie Singles for people that like Bernie Sanders. And I didn't care about, him one way or another. I didn't really mean anything to me. But I reached out to this guy that I saw on my Facebook that owned it. I'm like, yo, look, let me get involved. Let me and my buddies get involved. We've got this marketing agency. We'll work for free. And the guy came back to us and said, hey, look, I don't know what I'm doing either. Why don't you just buy it from me and you guys can run it and you guys can figure it out? I'm like, sure, yeah, that sounds great. So we bought it from him for like $5,000 and so much shit went wrong, but a few things went right. Dude, the website was down every single day. It was crashing. So much traffic. It was crashing.
Is that
The
popular?
dude, it was getting millions and millions of hits every couple of months. It was going viral in Facebook groups, like in Bernie groups with like tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and potentially even millions of people. It got on every single press outlet and every single talk show. It was on Ellen DeGeneres, Stephen Colbert. I forget all the others, but it was on like CNN. It was on Maxim. It was on literally like every single outlet was covering it. So it was getting so many people, and most people were like making fun of it, which is totally fine. We were getting sick backlinks and we were getting traffic. Um, and for all the millions of people, because it was always down, we only got like 20 to 40,000 people to like actually register and use it. But so long
Making
story
money?
short, that was like, was that?
Were you making money with it?
No, no, no. We were losing money because the site was always down. We were hiring developers. The server costs were being jacked up. And like it was a free site. The goal was to get a lot of critical mass and scale. And that like we were hoping that Bernie would go further in the elections and rerun and whatnot. That like it'd be a long-term play. And obviously everything went disastrous. So that ended up being the cherished case study that we had that attracted all these other businesses because we had so much notoriety. We had this really tangible case study that wasn't a job and that wasn't a client. Like it was something that we owned, that we growth hacked the shit out of. So that allowed us to get clients. And the first agency, we scaled about $30,000, in revenue every month, MRR, recurring revenue, contract revenue, whatever you want to call it. And then we couldn't scale past that. We were offering every single service under the sun. We all had full-time jobs that we were starting to slack at, that we were getting in trouble at. Then we had to pick it up. So we had to dedicate more time there. And we couldn't scale that agency past that. That was called Idea Shop. And then the next agency was, once I left that, I had finished working on this travel series that we scaled from 0 to 500,000 email subscribers, had a lot more experience then. I had a growth tool for musicians. I had done a lot more things at this point, that this guy that had just started this agency with a partner hit me up and he's like, yo, dude, you should join us as a third partner. We're doing low kind of five figures. We're doing like $20,000, $30,000 at the time. You should join us. We pretty quickly scaled that to about $80,000 a month in revenue. And then the two partners I had there kind of had a falling out. So then that was called Scale Up. We moved to Boundless Labs, which was me and a partner. And long-winded, that was the agency that we started back in 2018. And the intention here was to be really focused on a core offering of one thing. So it was really just email for e-commerce. And to this day, that's still the largest offering we have at Structured. And we merged with another agency back in 2020. So all in, I can't remember the actual number, but 120, 130 people. We'll do north of 8 figures. We've got email, SMS, paid search, paid social offerings. We're acquiring agencies, and eventually we're going to hopefully sell a business.
Damn, that's crazy.
Sorry, that was a lot.
It was really like a 7-year overnight success type story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, those are always the best, dude, because everyone looks at people like you and Hermosi and they're like, oh, they just woke up one day and they were just hit gold, you know what I mean? But it does take a long time. And so I think it's a good lesson for people to learn. It's if you've been going at something for 2 years and you still haven't, you don't feel like you really hit success yet. You haven't hit your hockey stick, which I hate that term because all these lame startups use it. But dude, you got time. How'd you
Get a
get a
couple.
partner? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, a couple other thoughts. So a couple lessons along the way. So the first one was you kind of have to do whatever it takes to get some kind of case study and social proof, right? So for us, that happened to be the dating site. For you, that could be a business that you start that's tangential to the agency. It could be a family and friends business. You need something where people feel like you have enough experience that they're going to trust you with their baby, right? With their brand. So I think that was one. Two is being really scatterbrained and focusing on every service under the sun made it really hard to scale because we didn't know how to forecast resources and forecast demand. How did we know which next client we were going to get would want email versus SEO versus CRO versus paid? We just didn't know. So it was really hard to forecast where we needed to staff up and where we needed to pull back and really what skill sets we as owners and operators needed to refine. That's two. Number three is with the agency we started in 2018, Boundless Labs. At the time, we didn't start the agency to be an agency. We were kind of the anti-agency, right? I think everyone starts as this thesis of being the anti-agency, right? So
Yes, dude. I was kind of the same way when I started.
that's everyone start from the beginning, right? It's you want to do something different, you want to be different, and then you end up being the same, right? You end up being the same down the road, but you differentiate based off of people and talent, but you end up having similar offerings because you want to have an offering that's apples to apples with another agency so people can compare it and hopefully quickly identify that your agency, while the offering same as another, is far superior in terms of your work, right? So the lesson at the Boundless Labs one was we thought we were just going to be consultants, but we called ourselves an agency because agencies can command more. They seem bigger, they seem larger than just being two freelancing dudes. That's kind of lame, right? You can't charge that much. And with that, the mistake that we made though was we did not keep any money into a company account. Every dollar that came in seeded our own pockets. And it was great. We were making, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, and I think we got up to $25,000 or $30,000 a month each, right? And this was 4+ years ago. So I was in my like mid 20s, right? Now I'm in my late 20s. So it was like, cool. I'm making like 25,000, $30,000 a month. Like this is amazing. But then when we wanted to hire people, we're like, oh shit, like this is expensive to find good people. And I don't want to take money out of my account. Like once I hit my account, it's mine. I don't want to put money back in. So it took us kind of a while to scale. And then we kind of became a lot more uh, methodical in terms of how we did it. So every month, we would keep about 30% of the money in the bank account. And once that kind of built and got up, we could then start hiring people, right? So, and then over time, right, the percentages change. You end up making a little bit less and whatnot. So those are kind of like the big learnings. And then the last thing I'll say is like two things to the point that you made. We've been at this. I've been at this for some degree for 7 years, right? And it's like when you do something for 7 years, like you should probably be doing well, right? So when you do something long enough, you're just going to win. You've got a lot of learnings, you got a lot of resources, you got a lot of connections, you got a lot of momentum. That's one. And then two, I always talk about like the stuff I'm doing on social and the stuff I'm doing on newsletter and the stuff I'm doing with clients today. Those aren't things from that are happening from the things I'm doing today. Those are things from the stuff I did 6 months ago. So, the things I'm doing today are going to benefit me in 3 or 6 months. So that's kind of how I look at it, right? You have to have a long enough runway that the things that you've done previously can kind of compound and be something really special.
Yeah, so you're like you have to like take the risk of kind of no one hearing about you
Yes.
first, and then it's just a compounding effect. That totally makes sense. I
Yeah,
think that's
you
a
and I were
really
talking.
valuable way to look at it too.
Yeah, and you and I were talking the other day. You're like, hey, you've been doing like this promotion of yourself and kind of this personal brand stuff for about 2.5 years, right? I'm like, dude, I've actually been doing it for like 4+ years, but no one knew about me until like 2 years ago, right? So I feel like 2 years just posting for my mom and my dad and my wife, and those were like the three likes I got for years. And now, thankfully, I get a few extra people that like it and engage with it.
Yeah, dude. Same for me. I've been on Twitter trying to do the same thing that I'm doing now. I mean, like I've changed the genre, so like now I'm on money Twitter, so I can talk about money and whatever else stuff that they deem valuable. Um, but like I've been trying to be me online since like 2015. Like I have an old Twitter account where I'm
Wow.
basically tweeting the same stuff, like my ideas and thoughts and jokes and stuff like that. And I think like yeah, it's a rewarding thing where it's like finally someone sees value in the things that I'm saying.
Yeah, dude, you've done a great job. Most people that don't stick with it long enough to ever get to the point of having some kind of scale or mass. And it doesn't even have to be millions of people, right? Like having the right group of 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people is really powerful.
Totally. And that's why I always tell people like don't rush trying to build your audience because there's a hacky way to do it and there's like a quality way to do it. So if you hack together an audience of 50,000 people, there may only be like 50 people in there that actually care about you and actually want to buy from you and everyone else just sees you as like a cool account that they just follow because they follow, right?
Yep.
But if you like actually dedicate yourself to like being genuine and authentic and posting content that people find valuable and being likable, that's what makes you a high quality like Twitter account with high quality followers, all that stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's go back to the agency real quick. How did you meet your partner Bozen, and how did you find your first like three or four like rock star hires that I can like name in my head? Because I know
Yeah.
you had the head of design, and then you had the like account manager, and then Michaela too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I met David through one of our previous partners, this guy named Harris. They had kind of known each other and connected us. We were all trying to start something together. The guy Harris ended up wanting to do brands instead of agency services. So met him through, I guess, like a mutual friend. Through Amelia, who's like a partner head of design, we met her through David's wife. I think Michaela, we literally found her on Upwork, which is kind of crazy. She did some like contract freelance work for us for a while, had her own like book of business, literally closed down her own shop to come work for us, like, which is pretty unreal to think about. And then our head of like account management came from a client. So we work with this 8-figure footwear brand out of Canada called Vessi, which I know that you know. And
Yeah.
then their VP of marketing or their CMO, Gabe, had connected us with one of his employees' girlfriend. So a lot of the team just came through like network and kind of just doing things online. The first couple clients was kind of a mixture of like just like some friends and family, some cold email outreach, being white labeled by other larger agencies. So it's kind of like a hybrid of a few different approaches.
Cool. Yeah, I think like network hires are always the best. Like they can sometimes really not work out where it's like there's been a couple people that I've brought on like very briefly where they've been on for like a month and like they're just the worst. And I think like sometimes you blind yourself where it's like if you think that like they're warm to you already, then they're gonna be good, but sometimes they're not. But I mean, yeah, like the majority of the people, I haven't hired anyone from like Upwork or Fiverr or anything like that. Some of them have come from Twitter, but it's people that I like already trusted.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, that's huge. But in terms of like the growth of like how you sort of skyrocketed in the last few years, did you kind of just wake up one day and you're like, oh shit, we're at eight figures? Or was it sort of like did you feel like the grind? Like did it feel like a lot of work?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely been a lot of work, and even now, like we have, eight-figure problems. When we were at seven figures, we had seven-figure problems, right? So just the scale and the magnitude really changes, and the larger you get, the more difficult problems become because you have a lot more people that are depending on you, right? So, if we have 120, 130 employees, right? A lot of these people are providers of their families, and if we have, I think we have like 150 clients, like there's so many people that we impact across like the direct employees that we have, the direct clients we have, and then the people that they provide for and work with. Like, dude, the work that we do probably impacts, not including their customers, right? Just actual people that work with us. There's probably thousands of people that we're directly impacting in some regard. So it's pretty crazy. It means we have to be on the top of our game. We have to act with integrity. We have to be very proactive. We have to really kind of be at the standard we expect of ourselves. So no, it's tough. I mean, now it's like we've got so many levels of different types of uh, status or not status structure in terms of like hierarchy, I guess I could say. Right, you've got like the partners and the founders, where we're at the top as like the C-level folks, and then we've got like directors and heads, and then we've got like seniors, and then we've got juniors, right? So there's all these different layers, and each tier that's close to us gets really expensive, right? You're paying these people, high five, low six, even sometimes like decent six-figure salaries. So now one of the things we're trying to solve for is like, how do we balance out, really expensive US based talent, director level people that have been doing this for just as long, not if not longer than us? Like, how do we bring in those people and how do we incentivize them? And then how do we then offset costs with like potential overseas talent, right? So, on the team that we run on retention, which is email and SMS, we're like 75 or 85 people. We're 100 plus clients. And what we've done, right, is a lot of the client facing roles, the account managers, the designers, the email marketers, the copywriters, et cetera. They're all typically US or Canada. And then a lot of like the more junior supporting staff is typically like in the Philippines. So that's been a way for us to like protect margin. But it took some of us figuring it out. Like our margins had dropped significantly before we figured that out. And now we're trying to figure out like for every one kind of US or Canadian person, how do we bring on two or three kind of support people, overseas? So there's been a lot of learnings, and every learning is very painful because it takes a lot more time and it takes a lot more money to solve at this stage.
Yeah, no, it's gotta be crazy, bro. Like yeah, like we're a team of six right now, and like yeah, it gets tough. Like it's kind of like yeah, you're responsible for a lot of people. And it's way like people don't understand that like to be a freelancer and like you're just traveling as an individual, like it's way less stressful, even if you're making less money, way less stressful to do that compared to like having a business that like people rely on you for money every single month. And big
Yeah.
clients that are paying you big fees that like if they don't get a return on that, like they're fucked too.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I've been thinking about just literally recently is like if I were to start another agency today, not 5 years ago, but today, like with kind of the personal brand and the experience that we have, like what would I do different and how would I structure it? And I think, what I would do, right, is like if I look at the founding and the partner team, there's different skill sets and there's different things. Like can we build like an A team that, either maybe just does email, but like if it does like email, SMS, paid, and tackles most of like the major things, like can we just go out and charge 50 to $100,000 retainers and just work with like solely nine-figure brands and be like their marketing team? Like that to me is kind of interesting, right? Like, can I land, 7 and 8 figure per year contracts? Like, can I land a million, 5 million, $10 million contract from, I don't know, a Nike, from a Tesla, from I don't know, a 9-figure e-commerce brand and kind of have way less employees, but like have way better margin, way bigger numbers. Like I probably, if I think about it now, like could probably get to doing 10 figures a year a lot easier, more profitably, and with way less people and headache, right? If you were to do it now. So I don't know, those are some of the things like I'm thinking about, but you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean that would be insane. Like that's actually that was something I realized when I was listening to a Neil Patel. My you probably listen to this too. Neil Patel, My First Million.
I heard parts of it. Yeah, it was interesting.
Dude, like they do nine figures, and their deal size is way bigger than anybody on this side of the
Yep.
internet. You know what I mean? Like they're doing full stack digital, similar to what you guys are doing, but like they're commanding crazy fees. And he was talking about how agencies like, yeah, they'll charge like $6 million a year to these Fortune 500 companies because like I don't even know how. Like what kind of agencies are able to charge that much? Like how can you even
Yeah.
guarantee an ROI?
Yeah, so it's interesting. My buddy, I think the agency is called Heart and Science, I believe, and it's part of a Omnicom, which is like a large parent group. I actually think they're public, but so they have different agencies within the network, and his specific agency, like their main client is HBO. So that they get like, I would imagine they're probably as an agency making 8 figures off of HBO alone. Some of the budgets, I don't think I can disclose too much, but some of the budgets that these guys are spending on like premieres and launches and whatnot, they're dropping 7, 8 figures specifically on like ad spend. And it's kind of crazy, like not to knock them, but like most of their goal is just like awareness and like attention versus like, direct response conversion, right? So it's kind
Right.
of interesting. Like there are these agencies out there. Like again, my buddy's agency works with HBO. There's agencies that probably work with like PepsiCo and I don't know, Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, right? That are
Mhm.
signing all this stuff. And because they're so big and have such big budgets, like they're probably literally running like awareness campaigns. Not that it's that easy, but it's probably a lot easier than like the direct response work that we're doing for 7 and 8 and 9 figure clients that like every single dollar counts. So yeah, I would probably go after those types of clients. You probably have to be on things like LinkedIn. Probably honestly have to try to like get into like networking events, big events, things like YPO, WPO, those types of things. Like it's a whole different Rolodex of people. You probably want to be in with like PE or VC type folks.
Mhm.
Uh, getting partnered up with like probably big lawyers or big accounting firms that have these types of clients that trust you. So it's probably like a whole different type of thing. I think one of our largest retainers is probably like, I don't know, we're probably charging like in the ballpark of like 20 to $40,000 for a client. Most of our retainers are probably in the ballpark of like, I don't know, 8 to 15 a month. So it's
Mhm.
it's not small, but like we're not charging 100,000, 500,000, a million a month. That'd be sick.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like I don't even know if you would want to like build a business. Like it seems like when you think about what you can do with an agency like we have, where it's like, I mean, you're not going to McDonald's and you're saying like, all right, so if you want email, it's gonna be $3,000 a month, and we can prorate that. So if you want to do like you want to break those down into payments, like I that just seems like so much more stress. And agencies are already stressful when you're working with like seven-figure brands.
Yeah, I think you definitely make some good points. I think the sales cycle would be a lot longer. So like right now, typically when we're working with clients, it's a one call intro, second call close, right? So we'll sign someone literally within a week of making contact between, I don't know, 8 to 15,000, depending on like what they're taking. Sometimes a little bit less, right? Maybe like the lowest could be like 65 to like 95, right? For a single service. And then we close really quickly with these large ones. Like you're probably having to submit like massive presentations. You're probably honestly pitching for like 3, 6, 9 months. So it's a headache to land. But some of these contract sizes and duration are like insane. Like it's not uncommon for them to sign like 1, 3, even like 5 year contracts at like a million, 5 million, 10 million, 25 million. Like just for some of the things that like I've been kind of privy to through friends. I can't like disclose the exact numbers, right? But some of these contracts are like really high, but they take a long time. It's almost like think about pitching like the government, right? Like, you know, it's probably going to take forever to get in there. There's so many checks and balances that you have to go through, so much approval process. But dude, the government will sign like long-term deals. Like I was at dinner with this guy that makes like the software for like police stations and like emergency response type things. And he's signing like 7 year contracts with like counties and states and nations for like 7, 8 figures. And they get that every year for 7 years. So it's like, it is so much money and so much work up front. But if you do a good job, like there's almost no way for them to break their contract.
Yeah, if you want to do TikTok ads for the FBI, it's a long sales cycle, but they'll pay you well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man. So I think like you're kind of in a cool position right now, like in your life where like you're kind of out of the grind phase. Like your day to day is not the agency. Your day to
Yeah.
day is more so personal brand and like your education like ecosystem.
Yeah.
Is that like how has your like career and your like your work life sort of balance changed like since you've had your daughter and like you started a family and you've kind of become an old man?
Yeah, it's like very cliche to say, but like literally like the day my daughter was born was like the day that my life changed. And it was like this weird thing that you have to like experience. But for my whole life I've been very like competitive, type A, workaholic, really believed in like hustle culture. Like when I was building these agencies and working for people and building other brands, like, I was working 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, I'm working 14-hour days, Saturday and Sunday is probably working like 4 to 6 hour days. So it was a lot. And then when I had my daughter, like I took 3 weeks off for like paternity leave, which I never thought would be like a thing I would want to do or ever be like able to do. And
Mhm.
like during that time, I'm like, wow, like I've just been working so hard my whole life. Like, how do I just start working smart and how do I outsource and how do I become more efficient? So I'm way more thoughtful with my time, way more efficient. Everything now I see has like an opportunity cost. It's like, does this dollar amount or this extra hour at work make me happy versus an hour with my wife and my daughter? Like, and I have to like kind of juggle that and run that through this equation, right, on an ongoing basis. It's allowed me to say no more often and only do things that like I'm interested in and want to do. It's allowed me to trust in people more. Before I'm like, dude, I'm going to do this way better than anyone else. Like, why would I ever pass this off? Which was like the bottleneck of the business. Like now, if someone can do it just as good or almost as good, that's amazing because that allows you to scale. So yeah, and every company I have and run and own, I've got like 4 or 5 businesses now, right? It's like the agency, the software business, the education business, the events business, and I do a bunch of like advising and stuff as well. I wear the same hat in all of them, right? Typically the face, typically sales, partnerships, biz dev, community. And because I do all those types of things across the board, it allows me to stay super focused. So while it seems like I'm on social a lot, or it seems like I'm doing a lot of content, like those serve all of my businesses equally. So it's really a great investment. So I think it's like finding good partners, being really efficient, not being afraid to offload things, understanding that certain fires are going to burn and that's kind of necessary, not jumping in to fix things, letting people kind of figure it out for themselves. So just my mindset and my way of thinking has changed. And, my wife and I are pregnant with a second baby. So it's now like, instead of playing right now, my wife and her playing zone, it's two of us with our daughter, Shay. We're going to be playing like man-to-man defense, right? It's like you take one and take the other. So my time now is going to even be split more to the family. So I'm trying to figure out like, what does that look like and how does that evolve?
Do you think that that is sort of like the key to a fruitful life or like a fulfilling life where it's like you're not because like dude, I'm gonna be totally honest. Like I am where you were before, or like I am very much hustle grind. Like let's get shit done. Like let's make a ton of money and just work super hard. Um, like do you think that that balance is absolutely necessary, or do you think it's kind of different for everyone else and this is kind of just like where you settled?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone. I think for me and my perspective, I think it's necessary for like a fulfilled, happy life, right? Like I want to be successful in everything that I do. Like I want to be an absolute beast and animal when it comes to business. I want to be like the best husband and the best, partner and dad. And I want to just do things that are fun. Like if I want to go golfing at 6 a.m. in the morning on a weekday, I'm going to go do it, right? And if I
Yeah.
want to go at 3 p.m. and play pickleball with my family, I'm going to do it. So I think for me, like the excitement is in like having diversity and having different things that like bring me energy. And for everyone, like that balance is different. So for me, it's like, the family, the friends, and the work, they equally bring me balance. So how do I do those things in the percentage that makes sense? It's like, okay, work is probably going to be 50 because I obviously have to work. And then the other 50 is going to be split between like family and friends. That's great, right? With other people, it might be, 90% work and then 10% family, right? Like if you're Elon Musk, dude, this guy was born to be just like larger than life and alien that just is a work guy and maybe have a bunch of kids. And whether he sees them or not, I don't really know. It's up to him. But like he's just a different type of human. And I think also too, like there's this saying that we use at the agency around like seasons. Different seasons bring different kind of opportunities and different types of allocation. For our business in Q4, more of my focus is probably going to be like on the agency because that's a huge opportunity for us to make more money than we've made prior. So every month, every quarter, every year, I also think the balance shifts and it kind of evolves. And then you kind of come back and reset. And you have to kind of keep finding what brings you happiness and fulfillment.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's okay to be fulfilled by different things at different points of your life.
Yes.
Like I and also like I think the key to finding what that is like just doing as many things as possible. So I think like having a dynamic life and doing, a little bit of business and a little bit of family stuff and a little bit of golf, like you're able to find like what that healthy balance is by doing everything. But if you're heads down only doing business, you're not going to find what really fulfills you because there's an entire world out there that you've never even explored. So yeah, I think that's huge, bro. And I think that's kind of where I'm at now, where it's like that's why I love like bouncing around so much. I don't like to call it traveling because I really just like go to the States, which like barely is traveling because like when I get off the plane, people are still speaking English to me. So, but like I really do like sort of, meeting up with like other people that I've met, like other business guys, like other guys from online, and hopefully you. It's crazy that we've still never met.
Yeah, I forget that at
Wow.
times. I forget that. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Actually, I was out for breakfast with my dad today, and he asked me like, "Have you ever met one of your clients?" And I was like, "No, like I never have met a client."
Wow.
I was
That's
supposed to meet,
crazy.
I was supposed to meet Ben from Disco when I went to Texas, but he bounced before I could see him.
Dang.
I
That's
was in
crazy.
I was in Nashville, and I told him like, "Yo, Ben, like, are you in Austin right now? Because I'm going to Austin." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, stay there." And he's like, "All right, cool. We'll hang out, talk business, whatever." I was like, "Cool." And then I fly to Houston and I drive down to Austin with my buddy, and I text him. And I was like, "Yo, are you coming? Where are you?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I had to leave the country for like 5 days." And I was like, "Oh," but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy the world that we live in now is like you literally will probably never meet majority of your clients, right? There's some that you will, we're definitely going to meet. But there's a lot that you just won't, and that's okay. And it's so much more efficient in that manner. It's like people always come into LA and I'm in Orange County and like they always want me to drive and meet them in LA. It's like, look, I love you. It'd be great to meet you. It'd be great to hang out with you. But like, I don't want to spend an hour and a half commuting each way, right? Like, I don't want to spend more time commuting than we're going to hang out for an hour meeting. So it's like, if you want to come to Orange County and we can meet, great. So I end up making people come to me because it gets hard. It's like I've got so many things I need to do and want to do throughout the day between work and family that like I've also just said no. Like there's a lot of speaking opportunities that have come up, whether it's at like Nick's Geek Out. Obviously, love Nick. Nothing against Geek Out when it comes to California. I'm there, but like I don't want to travel to Miami or New York or other places at this point to speak if I don't have to, unless they want to pay for my family to come.
right, yeah, and that's the lucky thing too is like you do have partners that will travel and meet clients, so that like there's at least someone from the team that
Yeah.
like is that point of contact. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, bro, like you have I don't want to say bigger fish to fry, but like you have your family and you have the stuff that you're building, and I think that should always take priority. That just makes sense. And I think like most legit business owners will get it. Like a lot of young guys will be like, "What, you don't want to meet me? I do 80K a month." Like, you know what I mean? Like some the ego guys,
Well, I
but
care less
yeah,
about like what someone's doing. If they want to come to me, I'll meet them. Like if like I don't care if you're just starting out and you want to hang out, or if you sold your company for $1 billion. Like I really just don't want to drive to LA for an hour and a half each way. Like I'm down to meet whoever. It doesn't matter. But I
yeah,
hear you.
yeah, man. Okay, well, there's a question. Like, do you see yourself becoming a billionaire, or do you think that like you see retirement in the next like 10, 15 years?
Yeah, I don't really have any like ambition to be like a billionaire. Sure, would that be cool? Yeah. Um, I'm building for like a few different 8-figure exits right now. Like I will exit our agency at some point for 8 figures, potentially even more, depending on how long we keep it. The software business, aiming for like an 8-figure exit. Some of the courses and education stuff, we'll do 7 figures a year. I don't know if I could actually ever sell those things, but maybe the events business, maybe we could sell. I'm not really sure. So I don't know. Like I don't necessarily need or want to become a billionaire. Like I want to sell some of these things for 8 figures. That's definitely my goal. And then with that cash, like I want to do more advising and investing than I have been. I've been like investing in a few car washes. I'm kind of interested in some of those types of
Sketchy.
things.
Super sketchy.
Yeah, super sketchy.
Totally laundering money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If the IRS is listening, that's not true. We got a lot more agents now, but no, I've got some family friends that crush in real estate and like car washes, like they're buying the land and they're building the car washes and going to manage them. So They're kind of doing like individual car washes right now, and then they're going to do a fund. So I'm trying to like invest more into that. I just want to have like cash to like have fun, to do things. Like would love to get like some vacation homes. So I'm basically, I wouldn't say retirement, but I'm more leading towards like, yeah, I'd love to be like quote unquote retired at 40 and have a bunch of money and have some kids and hopefully just be able to do what we want when we want. But I still love work. Like, I don't think work will ever stop. I think about work all the time. I've been waking up like every morning earlier than I want to because of thinking about things that like I'm excited about. But yeah, I don't know about being a billionaire.
You wake up earlier than me and you're 3 hours behind me. So like you'll text me sometimes at like 7:30 a.m. and I wake up at 7:45 and it's 4:45 for you.
Yeah, between like my daughter, she wakes up at like 6:30, or between like I've got a lot of people I'm trying to work with on the East Coast, and I'm trying to like get to them as they're starting their day, so that way they're productive on the software side. I don't set my alarm, so some days I wake up at 5, some days I'm at 6, some days I'm at 8. Like every day is different, which is fun.
hmm I love it, man. Dude, thanks for coming on. I know we had to cut it because we both got stuff to do. But
Last thing though, let's talk about Copy MBA.
oh yeah. Yeah, almost forgot. Well, okay, in your words, what is Copy MBA?
So in my words, Copy MBA is everything that we've done, everything that we've learned, everything that we've made mistakes, everything that we've done right, everything that we've assessed of others and their learnings, right? So basically from, billions of emails being sent, hundreds of millions of dollars being made, thousands of landing pages and, SMS, and just all of these are basically our life's work of experience being compiled into a course and a program that are going to help people essentially write better. And I think you kind of said it well, right? Like they're going to be able to write better emails, write better SMS, write better cold emails, write better social media posts, right? Write better
Everything.
communication with clients. So what I'm really excited about this is like this is going to be like a very universal skill set that people can use and learn to like up level their life. So I'm really pumped about this. How would you describe it?
I think that's solid. I think like people need to understand like how much that like writing is involved in your day-to-day life, and there's so many people that like sort of give into like, oh, I'm not a great writer, so like someone else wants to write this. It's like, no, like it's as important as speaking now, because you speak as much as you write. If you are in a
Yes.
professional setting, if you work at a job remotely, which almost everyone does now, even if you're not, even if you're just communicating via email or Slack or whatever, and you're like writing stuff that's either consumer facing or client facing or internal, like you need to have a very, very solid grasp of how to communicate via the written word if you're going to go anywhere. And so that's what I'm excited about, because like most people know this about me, like over 2020 and 2021, and I guess now this year too, I've done a ton of freelancing. Like I've packed more gigs and more retainers and more clients into those like 2.5 years than anybody that I can even name. Like I've written like over 5,000 emails, like hundreds of ads, hundreds of texts, hundreds
Yeah.
of like blog posts, everything. And so like you just learn this stuff so fast. And I've realized how important it is to like really understand this stuff. And so like now all of that I know and what you know is just being packaged into this course, and it's going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, the last two or three things I'd say is it sometimes scares me how quickly you can write copy, but the copy is like amazing. Like some of the emails that you were creating for some of our clients, like you would do them in like 5 or 10 minutes. I'm like, Jason, like, are you sure it's ready for us to review? Like that was a little bit quick, where everyone else would take like hours. So I think like once you understand like frameworks and principles and how to think and how to operate and like really just how to write, like your productivity and your efficiency like 10, 50, 100 X's, right? So I think that's what's allowed you to do so well is like you just get it, right? And if you don't get it, there are ways that you can learn through Copy MBA and others like how to get it. I think it's something that like sure, maybe there's some degree of being born with a knack for writing, but I really think more than anything, like if you're curious and you're, interested and you're willing to put in the time, you're going to be successful. I think that's one. Number two, like this is something that we've been thinking about and scheming up and brainstorming for like north of a year. So I'm really excited that's coming to life. And number three, like I'm obsessed with the name and the branding, which I cannot take any credit for. That was such a sick grab of your Copy MBA. And it's really going to be just that. It's going to be like the program that you need to like up level your life. Copy and other, like this is your MBA. It's going to be way cheaper than an MBA. If you want to get us $100,000, if you want your actual MBA, let us know. We'll put something together. But this is going to be like an accelerated MBA that's going to be insanely valuable. So that's all I got.
I think, yeah, that's perfect, dude. It's the last copywriting course that you're ever gonna need, I believe. And this is like something that we're both committing, like not just a lot of time right now in the sort of like procurement process and trying to make sure it's good before it launches, but also after it's out, like that's where my attention is going. That's where your attention is going. Like we are on this. Like there's no other copywriting course that you're gonna find that does that. So
Yeah. Well, dude, this was fun. Thanks for having me.
thanks for coming on, man. God bless Chase Diamond, everybody. Cheers.
Oh yeah. Appreciate you, dude.